In the section that we're going to be working on today, we're going to learn how to write linear equations when we are given the slope and a point on the line. For instance, here would be one example. It'll say write the equation of the line that passes through the point 5, 2 and has a slope of -2. Write the equation in slope-intercept form. Well, in order to write the equation in slope-intercept form, we need to know the slope and the y-intercept, and we're only given a point and a slope. So we don't know what the y-intercept is, and that's what we have to solve for. If we can look here in the steps, there are 4 steps for doing this. 4 steps for solving this problem. The first step, we're going to substitute the value for m into the equation, and we get that from the slope right there. The second step, we substitute the values of the coordinate in for x and y, and we get that from up here, 5, 2. 5 is going to be x, y is going to be 2. And once we have that, we're going to solve for the y-intercept, which is b. And then from that point on, all we have to do is substitute the values in for m and b, and then we have our equation. So if you need to pause the video to write those down so you can have those, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to move on and we're going to solve this problem here. And we're going to follow those 4 steps for every single problem that we do in which we're given a point and the slope and we need to write an equation. So looking here, we have the same problem. We know the slope is going to be a -2. We don't know what b is, but we do know the ordered pair is always in xy form, and that's the reason why 5 is going to be x and 2 will be y. What's the equation for slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. Let's substitute what we know in. M is -2, so we're going to write -2 below m. We know x is 5, so we're going to put it in parentheses. That way it doesn't look like -25. And we know y is 2, so we'll put the 2 there underneath y. Drop down our equal sign and drop down our plus b. And now all we have to do is solve this out for b. -2 times a +5 will give us a -10. And how do we get b by itself? Well, we add 10 to both sides. We've calculated b to be equal to 12, so we can go ahead and write that in right here. B is equal to 12. But the question is asking us to write the equation in slope-intercept form, so we're not completely finished yet. We have to finish what it's asking of us. So we're going to plug the slope back in, and we're going to plug the y-intercept back in. It's a +12, so we put +12. And we have x and y in there. We do not put this ordered pair. That ordered pair does not go into our equation because this ordered pair of 5, 2 is only one point on the line y equals -2x plus 12. And we're looking for an equation that represents every single point. So that's the reason why we have x and y in that equation. Moving on to the next one. Same thing here. Just follow the same 4 steps. Identify the slope. We're supposed to find b, and we know x and y. It's going to be -2, +1. So now we just substitute these numbers in. Here's the slope-intercept form of an equation. So let's substitute these numbers in. M is -5, so we're going to put -5 below m. X is -2, and y is a +1. So we have enough information here that we can solve for b. -5 times -2 will give us a +10. And from here, how do we get b by itself? Subtract 10 from both sides. 1 minus 10 will give us a -9, and those cancel. So b is equal to -9. Our last step, our step number 4, is to write the equation. So here we have y is equal to mx plus b. M, right here, is -5. X plus b. Here's b, which is -9, so we're going to put -9 there. And we have the equation that has a slope of -5 and passes through the point -2, 1. This equation here is, you're supposed to write the equation of the line that passes through the point 3, 6 and has a slope of 0, and we're supposed to put that in slope-intercept form. So we know m is equal to 0. We have to find b, and we know x and y come from the ordered pair, 3, 6. So let's go ahead and plug this in. Y is equal to mx plus b. Substitute what we know. M is 0. X is 3. And y is 6. Simplify this. 0 times 3 will give us 0. And therefore, 0 plus b is b. And so therefore b is equal to 6. We write that over there. And now we can write our equation. So we have y is equal to mx. M is 0. X plus b. And we found b to be +6. Now we don't want to leave our equation like this, because we know that 0 times x is going to be 0, and 0 plus 6 is going to be 6. So our equation should say y is equal to 6. And from our graphing section, we know if it is y is equal to 6, it's going to be a horizontal line that crosses at 6. Crosses the y-axis at a +6. Looking here, we have an equation of the line that one should write the equation of the line that passes through the point 2, -1 and has a slope of -1/2. We're supposed to write the equation in slope-intercept form. So m is equal to -1/2. b is equal to something that we're going to find, and our xy in this case is going to be 2, -1. We get that from right there. Let's go ahead and see what we can substitute in. Well, if we have y is equal to mx plus b, we're going to substitute in for m, which is -1/2. We're going to substitute in for x, which is a 2, and substitute in for a y, which is -1. So this is what we're looking at. Well, looking here, we know a negative times a positive is going to give us a negative answer, and we know 1/2 times 2 is going to be 1, because what's 1/2 of 2? Half of 2 is 1. Drop everything else down. So right now we have -1 is equal to -1 plus b. We need to get rid of this -1 here with b. So the opposite of -1 is adding 1. Those will cancel. -1 plus 1 is 0. And we drop down the b with it. So b we have calculated to be 0. And from here, we need to write our equation. Y is equal to mx plus b. Well, we know m is -1/2. And b is going to be 0. From this point, we know that if we add 0 to something, we're not really adding anything to it. So our final equation should say y is equal to -1/2 x. And that'll be your final answer. Let's work this one. This one here says that we should be writing the equation of a line that passes through the point 4, 3 and has a slope of -1/3. Write the equation in slope-intercept form. Well, we know m is equal to -1/3. We're supposed to find b, and xy is going to be 4, 3. So this is where we're at. Let's go ahead and substitute some values in. For m, we're going to substitute -1/3. For x, we substitute in 4. And for y, we substitute 3 in there. And this is what we have. So now we just solve for b. Well, right here we have -1/3 times +4. We know a negative times a positive is going to give us a negative. And in order to multiply fractions, we need to put 4 over top of 1. And now we just multiply the top numbers. So 1 times 4 will give us 4. And multiply the bottom numbers. 3 times 1 is 3. Drop everything else down. Now in order to get b by itself, we have to add 4/3 to both sides. Add 4/3 to both sides. And therefore b is equal to something. We have to do a little bit of work here. Because in order to add 3 and 4/3, we have to have like denominators. So we're going to say 3 over 1 3 over 1, and we're going to add 4 over 3 to it. Well, we have to have common denominators, and we know the common denominator between 1 and 3, we know the common denominator is going to be 3. Okay, what do we have to multiply this 1 by to get 3? Well, we have to multiply it by a 3. And therefore, if we multiply the 1 on the bottom by 3, we have to multiply the 3 on top by 3. And 3 times 3 will give us 9. Down here on the bottom, 3 goes to 3, 4 goes to 4. You're multiplying that fraction, both of those numbers, by 1. And so now we can add the top numbers. 9 plus 4 will give you 13. And the denominators will stay the denominators. You do not add those, that just stays 3. So we've worked this out to figure that B is equal to 13/3. I'm going to go ahead and write that over here, 13/3. Now we have to write the equation. Let's write the equation. We know y is equal to -1/3 x, and 13/3 is going to be positive, so we put a plus sign. Y is equal to -1/3 x plus 13/3. And that'll be the equation of the line that passes through the point 4/3. I'm sorry, it passes through the point 4,3, and it has a slope of -1/3. All right, we have a couple more slides left here. Why don't you try and work on this one on your own, and then you can check your solution with my worked out solution here. It's got to pass through the point -3, -4, have a slope of 4, and it should be written in slope-intercept form. Go ahead and pause the video and check your solution. I've substituted in for x, y, and m. 4 times -3 gives us a -12. And in order to get b by itself, we're going to add 12 to both sides. B is going to be equal to -4 plus 12 will give us a +8. And our final equation, y is equal to, has a slope of 4, y is equal to 4x, and b is +8. Y equals 4x plus 8. This one has some decimals in it. We still work the same with decimals as we do with either fractions or whole numbers. So I think you can go ahead and work this one out and get the equation for this problem. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video and try it. If you are if you're looking here, has a slope of 0.5. here is going to be x, and this is y. So let's plug these numbers in. 2.25 is equal to 0.5 times 1.5 plus b. We have to work this out. So we know that, let's say half of 1.50, half of 1.50 is 0.75. And we drop everything down in order to get b by itself. You have to subtract. Uh, 5 minus 5 gives you the 0. You're going to have to borrow because 2, you can't subtract 7 from 2. So you borrow, you take 1 away from that 2. And so now we have 12 minus 7 to give you 5. And 1 minus 0 gives you a 1. And drop down the b. This is 1.50, but since it has that 0 on the end, I'm going to drop that when we go to write the equation. And our equation should look like y is equal to 0.5 x plus 1.5. Y is equal to 0.5 x plus 1.5. And you notice I dropped the 0 there. If the zeros are off to the right, you can go ahead and get rid of those. But if they're between the decimal place and the number, you have to leave those zeros in there. Here we go. We have this situation here. It says write the equation of a line that passes through the point -2, 1 and is parallel to the equation y equals 1/2 x plus 4. Write the equation in slope-intercept form. Well, you kind of have to know what you remember about lines being parallel. And if you remember that lines that are parallel will have the same slope. So if it has to be parallel to this equation here, that means that it has to have the same slope. Parallel lines have the same slope. So we're looking, right there's the slope. So the line that we're going to be writing the equation for, the line that we write the equation for, will have the same slope. And if we look up here, y equals 1/2 x plus 4, the slope is 1/2. Now, a lot of people think that y-intercept there of +4, that we're going to use that. We're not going to use that in this situation because the only thing we're worried about for parallel lines is that they have the same slope. And so that's what we need to worry about. All right, so they have the same slope. So it's got to have a slope of 1/2. And we still work this out the same. We still let -2 be x and 1 be y. So plug this in. You plug 1/2 in for slope. You plug -2 in for x. And you plug 1 in for y. Go ahead and work this out. A positive times a negative is going to give us a negative answer. And 1/2 of 2 is 1. and we bring everything else down. Trying to get b by itself, so we add 1 to both sides, and that leaves us b is equal to 1 plus 1 is going to be 2. Now that we have the slope and the y-intercept, we can go ahead and write our equation. Y is equal to 1/2 x, and b is a positive 2. So let's look at the equation we just wrote in the equation that they gave us. And both of them have a slope of 1/2. So they have a slope of 1/2, and they have a different y-intercept. So they are going to be parallel. This is very similar to the problems that we've been doing, the first few examples. The only difference is, instead of them telling you that this was the slope of 1/2, you had to understand that parallel lines have the same slope, and then you took this 1/2 out to use for the equation that we were writing. That's really the only difference, is that you had to understand that parallel lines have the same slope. Let's look at this next example here. And let's go ahead and have you write the equation for this. You might want to go ahead and pause the video, and I'll work this out here in a minute. This says y is equal to 1x minus 7. Remember, just because there's no number in front of x doesn't mean there's nothing there. There's actually that invisible 1 there. Go ahead and pause the video, and I'll work this out. All right, so once we've figured out that it has to have a slope of 1, because we're trying to get parallel lines, and it's got to be parallel to y equals x minus 7, the slope for y equals x minus 7 is that invisible 1. So let's substitute in. From our ordered pair, -1 is going to be y, +1 is m, and -6 is x. So we have y equals mx plus b. And from here, we solve this out. We're going to get -6 plus b is equal to -1. Add 6 to both sides. -1 plus 6 will give you a +5. Those cancel. We're left with b. And from here, we go ahead and write the equation. Y equals mx, and there's a 1 in front of that x. It's just that you can't see it because we use that 1 right there, because that's m. Y equals mx plus b, and since b is a +5, we're going to put a +5 there. Y equals mx plus b. So the equation here, y equals x plus 5, is a line that is parallel to y equals x minus 7. Thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions, let me know, and I will answer those for you.